Instant analysis now. Guy Benson's been up all night. Political editor, townhall.com, and a Fox News contributor. Guy, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bill.
Go ahead and just, how do you see the result come out first, and then we'll get into some particulars.
Well, it's an earthquake. There's no getting around that. It reminds me of Scott Brown winning in Massachusetts, taking that seat that was held by Ted Kennedy for so long in 2010, which was a precursor to a major wave election later that same year. I would say, Bill, there's one word that can describe the number one reason that Roy Moore lost this election, and that word is Republicans. Nothing happens in Alabama politics without Republican voters deciding it should happen. And the Democrats did what they needed to do to get Doug Jones in the ballpark, but ultimately it was Republican voters who wrote in another name, Republican voters who crossed over for Doug Jones, and thousands upon thousands of Republican voters who sat at home unwilling to support Roy Moore.
I think that last point is very well taken. There's a tendency sometimes to look too much into these outcomes. And over the coming days, we'll let it marinate and see how it settles in. This strikes me. Here's our voter analysis from last night. African Americans went for the Democrat by 87 points, but under the age of 45, wait for it, in red, plus 26 for the Democrat. What do you think about that?
In Alabama, this is a conservative place, and this was, to me, a warning shot for the Republican Party. The future of the party and the future of the conservative movement cannot be and entail people like Roy Moore. Young voters, even in the reddest of precincts, want nothing to do with someone like Roy Moore. Now, you might say, Bill, let's not read too far into this one election because of the distinct challenges, let's put it that way, and flaws of Roy Moore with all these allegations, 9 women. And I think there's some truth to that. I think if you look at some of the exit polling, to me, perhaps one of the biggest data points that stuck out, generally Republican women are married with children. When you look at women who broke heavily for Doug Jones, with a solid majority of women believing the allegations against Roy Moore, women without children went for Doug Jones, the Democrat, relatively narrowly. Mothers went overwhelmingly for Doug Jones. That is a break from the usual pattern. Married women with kids, typically in the Republican column, by 34 points. They went against Roy Moore, and I think we all know why.
Something to watch. What about the agenda in the building behind you now? What happens to that? 12 hours into this.
Sure. Well, now the Republicans have a new sense of urgency on tax reform because Doug Jones, my guess, is that he's going to govern as a liberal. So they want to get that bill finalized and voted on out of conference committee before he is seated. It was always the plan to seat the winner of this special election after Christmas. And so right now they've got just 2 seats to play with. That would go down to 1 seat if they wait. So my guess is the Republican leadership is going to say, let's get this done while we have a little tiny bit more of a cushion, because Roy Moore, a disastrous candidate, really put a lot of things in jeopardy, including the president's agenda with this loss.
Watch Senators Corker and Collins through this. Thank you, Guy. Guy Benson there reporting in
Thank you.
Washington, D.C. Thanks.